When you become a member of ACF Boot library, you will be given access to stencils for Visio Studio. You can use stencils within Visio Studio to put together wireframes for your clients. In this specific video, we're going to look at how we can create new elements and add them to stencils. If you create a new element and add it to stencils, you will be able to submit that element to ACF Boot, and if we accept that element, you will get a freebie, maybe a 1-month subscription free of charge, or maybe we can even pay for that service as well. So let's get started and create a new element. So I was going through different websites and I found this very interesting element here. And I think this element would be a very good addition to our library of scripts. So in this video, we're not going to be building the actual element through code. We'll just create a stencil using Visio Studio. I will be uploading the stencils folder containing all of the stencils, and I'm going to be also uploading the template file. If you are a member and you don't see those files, please let me know and I'll be sure to send those to you. Okay, so let's get started. In order for us to create this specific element, we need to examine it first. Something that jumps at me right off the bat is the arrows over here. You see how they are outside of the container of the website, and that is really important. That means that we cannot have this element stretch from very edge of the screen to another edge of the screen, otherwise the arrows will simply disappear. We also have the buttons here, which is also important to note, and we have a square box image and pretty much the design that you see here. In order to get started with this, we're going to open up our Stencil Template web icon. Double click that, and we're going to import all of our stencils. Open Stencil. We're going to navigate over to them. They are located on desktop. Web development, wireframes, stencils. So I'm clicking first one, then holding Shift button, selecting all of them, and then just opening all of the stencils. They have way too many folders open here, so I'm going to close them up here. Okay, wonderful. I usually like to define where my element starts and ends. It doesn't have to be exact, but roughly somewhat similar. You might find a better way of defining the borders, but this will do. Alright, so let's start working on this library. We have a header, and I think it needs a subheader. This way it will look better. So let's grab text to header. Let's make it bigger. A good idea would be to standardize all of the headers to make sure that they're the same font, the same size, but at this time I don't really have time for that. Maybe in future we're going to work on standardization. And this is going to be our subheader. Now subheader will have text in it that talks about this specific module. Visually it looks a lot nicer when we have a header and a subheader. Now, what information are we going to place here? I would propose to add some Latin text. So I'll go to Latin text generator, lorem ipsum. I'm going to copy a bunch of this lorem ipsum and just paste it here. Oh, see how it jumped up? Let's just increase the size, just like so. And I think we're going to make it italics as well. Yeah, there we go. This looks nicer. And we can even change the color slightly to make it a bit more like a subheader. I also think that the black here is way too black, so let's make it a little bit less black. Oops, have to select it to see the change. Yeah, I think this looks good. Alright, so the first one will be an arrow. Let's make an arrow. Going to use a text box. There are so many ways how you can create an arrow that it's actually unbelievable how many ways you can do it. But I'm just going to do the most basic option. Because after all, this is just a very small example of an element. It doesn't have to be exact. See how I'm bringing the arrow kind of outside of the perimeters here? And I'm actually thinking to reduce it a little bit. Maybe like this. Let's change it to more of a grayish color. Like this. Okay. I'm going to copy it, paste it. And something like this. I think this would work. I'm not going to align them yet because I want to add the actual cards first. Let's create one card and then we can just copy and paste it. To create a card, we're going to use a rectangle. I think something like this would work nicely. You can see at the very top we have an image, so we need to find an image. Now, Visio Studio already comes with some pre-built elements. Within the media section, you can see that there is an image block that we can use. So let's just use whatever they have for us. See how nice and professional this is? I'm going to bring this block to the top. So I'm going to click bring to front. That brings it to the front. And we're going to not fill it with anything. This way it's transparent. Excellent. Now you can see that we have this interesting design element here. We have two colors. Well, actually, I think it's one color, but two different shades of it. Let's make something similar. I'm going to insert. Like so. And in this specific case, I think we'll need to go to developer mode over here, developer module. Let's create another rectangle. You'll see where I'm going with this shortly. We're going to spin it. Okay. I'm going to go back to home. Going to increase its size slightly, so we're going to overlap them. Again, going back to developer, then I'm going to click on the top one, click on the background one, and then within the operation, we're going to click subtract. Oops, I've subtracted the wrong one. So I'm going to click on the back one and then the front one. Subtract. Yeah, there we go. See how it kind of divided them? What else we need to do is we need to break them up now. Did you notice how let's go step back. So I clicked both of them, I went to operations, and I clicked fragment. And it basically separated the two elements with the headspace between them. Now we can drop them in place individually. And then we can move them together and combine them to look as if they're one element, just like so. But they're two different elements. Now this operation with subtraction and combination is a bit more on the advanced side. That's why they have developer mode here. But if you play around it for a day or so, you'll be very professional at it. It's not difficult at all. Okay, the reason why I did that is because I wanted to really have this look here. I think we could have skewed it a bit more to have bigger slant on it. You know, why don't we just do that? I'm going to step back all the way back to here, and I'm going to rotate it further. Yeah, think like that. And so we click on the back, we click on the front, and then we're going to go to where is that? Developer. Operations, subtract, and then we're going to go again to operations and fragment. There we go. Yeah, this looks better. Going to shrink it. Going to take this, position it here, move it to about here, and move them together. There we go. Let's take this and let's color it a different color. Going to go to home, fill, let's give it maybe grayish but lighter gray. This one will be more heavy gray like this. Yeah, that's how they had it. I think this looks really cool. So we're going to group this element now so it's together. And what I'm thinking about is that we can actually even you know, let's ungroup it and let's combine it. We're going to go to developer, operations, let's combine it. Oops. Select this one first and then that one. Combine. No, the other way around. This one first and that one. You know what? Might be union. Okay, yes. It might not work the way that I was thinking. Why it might not work is because when we combine the two, they actually join them together. So We could potentially, no, we cannot subtract it. Could join them. No. Okay, I think that's pretty much the only way that we can do it. So forget about it. We're going to simply group them. Let's just group them. Okay, that's fine. It's going to work. So sometimes you overthink it, and you don't really need to overthink it. What I noticed is that they are a bit disproportionate. The the box should be more like this. The image is more like this, and this item needs to be thinner, quite a bit thinner, like this. So this is more proportionate to what we see on the website. Now we need to add a title, we need to add description. So I'm just going to copy the header element into here. We're going to reduce the size of it to make sure that this size of the subheader isn't as big as the main header, otherwise it doesn't look good. I'm going to take this information here and I'm going to just reduce it, increase the box size, and stick it over here. Another very important element here is to make sure that everything lines up together like so. This needs to be moved just a tad, I think. Actually, no, it looks good. Now, you see how we have this this text over here. The subheader text is exactly the same as this one. I mean, that's what we designed it as, but it doesn't have to be like that. The reason why it doesn't have to be is because it conflicts. A person looks at on this text and a person looks at this text and it looks identical, and subconsciously that breaks the flow a bit. So we need to make sure that we have it look different. See, I changed it from same font size, I changed it from italic to regular font, and suddenly it looks like a unique element here. So that is really important, to make sure that we have elements that look nice, and the secret behind it is to make sure that they don't iterate, that they are distinct text and font sizes for each element. We can even reduce the font size slightly here. That was way too much. So maybe not 18, but maybe 17.5. Well, 17.5 was hardly not noticeable. Maybe 16. Yeah, something like this. And maybe we can just add a bit more text here. Okay, excellent. We have this guideline stuck here for some reason, so I'm going to move it around a little bit. Should take care of it. Okay, so the next thing is that we're going to add a button. I already have buttons created. I could have reused a button, but for this specific video, because we're building something from scratch, we're going to create a button ourselves. So I used the rectangular tool to create a rectangle. I'm going to type in button, actually learn more. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it bolder. Now the button doesn't has to be just slightly smaller than the header. Otherwise, a person will get confused as to what is header and what is a button. Happens from time to time and doesn't look proportionate. Now this looks more proportionate, correct. Now let's give it some background color. Again, we're going to go to Fill, then we select the color. I think this color looks good. And I really like rounded edges to these squares. So I'm going to right click on it, and we're going to go to Format Shape. So I've played around with a rounding of the corners here. It doesn't really look too well, so I'm actually going to revert all the way back to how it was originally. So we're not going to round anything. Visio Studio doesn't really have a very good way in which we can use the rounded elements. It's possible, but it's time consuming and I don't really want to mess with it. Okay, so that's good. We have one element completed. So now I'm going to just copy it and paste it. You see this green line down the middle? It showed me that it was centered. And then we're going to also position this one here. So for me, what is really important right now is that they are located more or less equidistant from each other. So we don't really need to measure it out ourselves. All that we need to do is to group this one. We can group this one. And then we group this one. Oops, without the arrow, just this guy. Group. Now that they are grouped, we can going to move this arrow out of the way so it doesn't interfere with my work. Once they're grouped, we select all of them, and then we're going to go to Position, and we're going to click on Distribute Horizontally. Did you see how the middle one just shifts slightly? So this automatically arranges them equidistant from each other. And then we're going to also align bottom. But they're already aligned, so I'm just double checking that they're aligned to the bottom. And last but not least, we're going to move the arrows over here, so a person would be able to scroll through different slides. I'm just going to use, you know what, I'm not even going to use a guide for this. I'm going to do the same trick here I did by automatically aligning them. So I'm going to select them. So I clicked one, I pressed Ctrl and I clicked another one, and then I'm going to click Position, and align bottom. Where is it? Align bottom, like this. And there we have it. They are exactly aligned together. Last thing is that we need to add those small buttons at the bottom. So we're going to use an ellipse tool. Just create a couple of the small buttons here to show which slide we're on. Let's paint this one gray, almost black. Yeah, like this. Copy paste. Now this will be, let's make it almost white, like that. And then we're going to paste another one. Just going to show you how we can quickly align them together. So I want them to take up about this much space. So I'm going to move them. I can even disorganize them, but I want them here. So we're going to take this and we're going to go to position and we're going to do distribute horizontally. Then we're going to go to alignment and align. Let's go align top this time. There we go. Now they're exactly aligned. But I also want them aligned with the reference to the central piece here. Two ways of doing it. Fast way is to just make sure that it's center aligned, and now it's aligned to the center. Another option is to group them and then select this and this together, and then we're going to go to position and align and align center. See? Same effect. Okay, I think we have built our new stencil for a block that looks like this. What do we do now? We select it and we group everything together. There we go. It's one element now. Now we need to save it. We have a slider over here. We're going to save it into a slider module. All that we do is we take this, we drag and drop. We click yes. We rename it. Slider 1. And we click the save button here. Make sure you click the save button. Otherwise you lose all of your work. And there we go. That's our new element that we have just put together. That's how we can create a new stencil, and we can add it to our stencil library. And if you want to contribute with different stencils to our library, you're more than welcome to do so. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.